Hi, Stitchers.
Hi,
I'm Laura.
and I'm Keisha, and we're the Pattern Queens, and welcome to Stitch with Us episode number 50.
Woo!
Today is Sunday, September the 1st, and this is a channel about cross stitch.
And friendship and silliness and shenanigans. And sometimes it's about forgetting that it's your turn to go first.
Yeah, that happens. We want to welcome everyone new and returning. We're so excited that you're here. Every once in a while, we do a stitch with us because we just want to sit and chat and stitch. So, we're going to show you what we're working on today. What are you working on, Laura?
I am working on the river. Oh, how about this
Ooh.
way?
Nope,
Nope,
you
I
had it
was
right the
right.
first time.
Darn it. By Modern Folk Embroidery. And this makes Keisha laugh. This is what I keep it in.
Yes, I love that.
This came out in a Black Needle Society box, and it came with this beautiful floss called River of Life from Forbidden Fiber Co. And it looks like this. It's just
Yes.
fabulous. And I have a very small start on some green fabric. I don't think it's really that green. Woo, it looks fluorescent. So I start at the bottom and work from bottom to top.
Ooh, nice.
What are
I
you working on?
I am working on. I just realized I didn't have the picture of it pulled up because I'm very professional over here. I'm I'm working on there we go. ABC Dinosaurs by the Clouds Factory. Um this was their stitch along a couple years ago, and I have done all of the dinosaurs up to I'm working on Q. I'm getting there.
You've done a lot.
Yeah, so here's where I am. Like I said, I'm working on Q here. Everything else is up here at the top. This is on a piece of 36 Arctic Fox linen from Fibrana Whim, and it's all the called for colors except for white doesn't really show up very well on here, so I've changed out what the backstitch words are to just be different colors that are
Which
in
I
the
like.
palette.
It kind of adds to the color palette of the piece.
Yeah, it's been fun to kind of pick them out because I just pick something that's in the letter so that it's all kind of cohesive. And we didn't really plan this, but we are both working on samplers because today is the first day of Sampler September,
Hmm.
which is
I'm
exciting.
so excited to have my samplers out.
Yes. Um, so I guess first, what's new with you, Laura?
Well, it's been a busy week and um just another busy week at school. I want to say a big thank you to anyone who has donated to the wish list that we set up for my school. And if you haven't, there's still a lot out there. There's information about it on our website or in our Facebook group, but we have basically just had the teachers in the schools set up items on the list that they would love to have. And lovely cross stitchers have been going in and donating things. And it's just amazing. The outpouring, and my staff and the students are so excited to see things come in. And on Friday, um, no, on Monday, I guess, because that's when we get our newsletter. Our weekly newsletter from the principal came out, and I was recognized as one of the staff members of the week because of my work with the list.
Oh, wow.
It was,
Congratulations.
yeah, it was kind of a nice thing to get,
Yeah.
and yeah, just felt good. We did a chat yesterday just for a couple of hours to talk with people who had donated, and it was fun to just be in there and get to discuss things and see how everyone is doing. The first
Awesome.
part released yesterday morning at 7 a.m. where there was
Yes.
already a lady who was halfway finished with the lettering.
Wow.
So
People are ambitious. I
they
have not
are.
opened the email yet. That's how.
And what have you been up to this week?
Well, this week has just been another busy week at work. I had kind of a weird week where I went to a bunch of different meetings. I feel like I was barely in my office at all. Uh, but it was fun. I got to do some networking and listen to some presentations about financial statements and actuarial assumptions and all of the nerdy stuff that someone who likes numbers gets up to. I will say though that listening to an actuary at 9 o'clock in the morning after you get 2 hours of sleep because your newborn is up um, is not the best thing. I needed lots of coffee.
Did you guys get hit by the storm really bad on Tuesday?
Oh, we did. So that was funny because we my I came home and my husband said, "Oh, I'm just gonna go grab McDonald's for dinner." So I was like, "Okay, that's great." And so I went over to daycare to pick up the kids, and on the way over there, I was like, "Okay, yeah, it's about to start raining." And we come back and we just hear these loud splashes on the road behind us. I'm like, "Get in the house! Get in the house!" So we make it inside before we're totally drenched, and it just starts pouring down rain. McDonald's is like less than 10 minutes from my house. So I get a couple minutes later, I get a text from my husband that says, "Yeah, I'm just staying out here for a little bit." So did you guys get quite a bit of rain where you are?
We I had laid down to take a nap, and as I was waking up, um there was a big loud crash, and then
Mhm.
all of the power went off.
Oh.
So we had already kind of planned to go out to dinner because it was a hot, hot day again.
Mhm.
And we're just trying, my house is west facing and doesn't do well with the heat. And we were just trying to get out of the house and not heat it up.
Mhm.
So that just really meant that we needed to go out to eat. And
Right.
then Katie kept kind of watching the Ring doorbell, and we were not getting anywhere with it. The power was not coming back on. So we decided to go to a movie instead.
Mhm. Well, that's
And
fun.
we got home. So on a school night, we went to a 9:30 movie
Oh
and got
gosh.
home a little after midnight, and the power had come on sometime between 11:30 and midnight.
Oh
So the
man.
house was still a little stuffy,
Yeah.
but we
Luckily,
had air.
yeah. Luckily, we were spared our power being out, so that was good.
We are in the spot in the neighborhood where our power always goes off.
Mm.
And the people across the street had power. It seriously is our one little 11 house section of the neighborhood.
Oh,
But there were other people close by that had power out, and they were bigger groups of houses. So when they finished with them, we were close, and so they just did ours next.
well, that's good. Oh, see, it was kind of bizarre. I don't know really what happened. We didn't have power whenever I came home on Wednesday, and there have been no storms or anything. And we saw that the power company said it was just a precaution that they had turned it off. But I went over and the daycare that my kids go to is very close to my house. And I went and I'd walked in the house, I'd put down my stuff, and then I went over to get them. And um and I didn't notice anything because the house was cool. The lights were off, but that wasn't anything because my husband works during the night, so he was asleep. So I didn't really think anything of it. And I go over, the daycare has power, and I come back home and I sit down and James asked to watch a show, so I went to try to turn on the TV and no power. And I was like, "What happened here?" So,
Just a
very
strange, strange storm.
Yes. Who knows? Right. So are you ready for some questions?
Sure.
All right. Well, they're kind of cross stitch related today. Um, so today is September 1st, which is the start of Sampler September. And I wanted to know from someone who has been cross stitching for longer than me, what what are the different types of samplers? Because I see a lot, like obviously, whenever I grab a sampler, I grab something that maybe has like an alphabet, because I assume that that's a sampler, or something that has the word sampler in the title, or something by dog, dog samplers, because I assume that that's a sampler, because that's in the title of the designer. But um, I was just gonna ask, like, what are the different types of samplers? Because I tried to do a Google and I couldn't find anything good or conclusive.
So, I think the reason I am no authority, I'm going to start that way.
Hmm.
I am no authority, but I think the reason that there is so much confusion about it is that technically every piece that we stitch is a sampler because it's a
Oh,
sample of your work.
okay.
I think what we traditionally now consider samplers are oftentimes reproduction samplers,
Hmm.
where a designer is taking an old sampler and just reproducing it. Sometimes they go with um, what the colors originally would have been. Sometimes they will just modify that and let it be kind of what the faded version is that you see on the front. But it's interesting because um, there are two colorways for a piece just because it has been sitting around for a while and faded.
Right.
But there are lots of different kinds of samplers. And the one that I'm doing, the River of Life, is a band sampler. It's bands of
Mm.
work. And I would say that if we're calling yours a sampler today, Keisha, it's a spot sampler
Ah,
because the different motifs are in spots and they don't even have to be complete
mhm.
because the idea was that you were showing your work so that you could be hired or
Oh,
you were displaying your work so you would be an eligible match.
ooh. I don't know if my husband would count cross stitching as something that made me an eligible match, but I'll go ask him afterwards.
Um, and I was kind of chuckling because when I was Googling things, it was talking about antique style, AI says, antique
Hmm.
style, schoolgirl, and framed. Although I will tell you, when you look up framed sampler, it says that's what you do when you're done with the piece.
Ah, well, there you go.
I
Thanks,
thought
AI.
I thought maybe it was talking about that it was trying to talk about pieces that have a border all the way around that would
Mm,
frame the piece.
right.
So, one of my favorite types of samplers is a Quaker sampler.
Mm,
And okay, what I think of as a Quaker sampler is not necessarily um, what it is because I believe that's the one. It was talking about some different. Oh, yeah. So, an example of a Quaker sampler is a Secret Sky, which is a sampler that I have. You can see mine in my whip parade. Let me look it up real quick. I should have done this, but it's by Modern Folk Embroidery and it's beautiful. I chose it because it was all blues and um I chose some floss that is purpley blue, so just pretty. Okay, let's see if I can get a good image here. It is a Quaker sampler. I just wasn't thinking about it. That one's done really dark. This is more what it is. Okay. So this is a Quaker sampler, and that's what I think of. It says that it would have florals, it would have kind of this specific style of motif, and they're
Hmm.
all different ones. The motifs are not always complete, like the ones along the sides, around the
Hmm.
edges.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes has a verse. It has animals, it has, little other little motifs in with it.
Interesting.
So that's a Secret Sky was one that I just loved. It has crowns, it has flowers. I love flowers in my pieces.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's probably more than you wanted to know all at once.
Oh no, no, this is perfect because I just had like some questions about it. So what I'm hearing from you is if we want to go by the most basic definition of the word sampler, you could work on anything you wanted to for Sampler September.
You could.
Just your work.
Yes. And like one of the interesting ones was that, schoolgirl, when I think that a lot of times they will refer to them maybe as schoolhouse samplers.
Hmm.
Those are typically what we think of with the letters because, they're showing their lettering and how they do
Right.
things.
Right. And I guess that would be probably a lot of the reproduction samplers that I've looked at, like Abra Lowney is because she's 11. So I'm sure that she did that for like school.
Yes. And then, there like Hands Across the Sea will do a bunch of the really big, beautiful, involved samplers
Hmm.
that are just a lot of pictures and not as much in the way of lettering and things.
Right.
Modern folk embroidery is a great place to look for samplers, though I will say that.
Hmm. Well, this was very informative because I just, sometimes you try to Google a thing and Google just, when I tried
Doesn't
to Google it,
cooperate.
yeah, it just gave me a whole bunch of like the reproduction stuff. And I'm like, well, I know that.
Yeah, and
But I,
mine, when I looked up spot samplers, it says um spot samplers featured randomly placed individual motifs, whereas band samplers were worked with a more orderly arrangement of rows of border patterns.
Hmm.
Which that kind of makes sense. If that was going to be a sampler, it would be the borders that you would be able to add to like a person's linens or their handkerchiefs,
Right.
whatever monograms and
Mhm.
things. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Interesting.
The funny
Thank
thing
you.
is that for years I have said that I am not a sampler stitcher.
Uh-huh. And here you are.
I think I told everyone last week in our floss tube that when I went through quickly through my whip list, I identified 40 projects um as samplers.
Mhm.
But I'm
That's
not a sampler stitcher.
no, not at all. Just like whatever you told us you didn't like houses way back when.
I don't like to stitch them, no. Um, but also I think I'm not a reproduction sampler stitcher.
Right.
For the most part, that's not a thing I do. Although we did start Anne Grimshaw.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like with the reproductions, it just has to hit me right. And I do better whenever I see them in person, I think. If I see them in person done up, then I want to work on them.
I
'Cause I
enjoy
think
looking at them for sure.
mhm. I think the only two reproduction samplers I have going is are Amgren Shaw and then Abra Lowney, which I need to bring her back out and work on her some more. Because that's always a fun time. But she's challenging and I haven't really been able to work on anything that's too challenging lately.
She's challenging because she was 11 and didn't fully understand the fabric she was on, right?
Right. Yep. Doing stitching on the wrong thread and all that kind of stuff. Which is definitely interesting. Like I said, it's a challenge and I really like it. I like having something that's a little bit different. But whenever you're working on something like that, you kind of have to be in the mindset for it and maybe not holding a baby or being interrupted from your stitching several times.
And we each have at least one long dog.
Yes.
How many do you have? I was trying to think if you have more than that one.
Nope, I only have Death by Cross Stitch started. I have several other patterns, but that's the only one I have going.
Well, I have Life After Death, which I have a massive plan underway, and it could potentially be finished by the end of October if I'm able to keep up my pace. I am under 19,000 stitches,
Oh, that's crazy.
and I've probably put in, I can't even tell you how many stitches I've put in recently. I'll have to look at my book because I am tracking it. And I'll have to tell
Mhm.
you how many I've put in since I decided to finish it by the end of the year.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that.
I know it's a big bunch, but I'm thinking I do over 4,000 stitches a month on this thing. So, yeah,
Right.
I am at
Yeah.
60, like 66%.
Wow. I'm nowhere near that with my Death by Cross Stitch. I haven't really picked it up much this year. I really need to. I'll try to make a plan to pick that up sometime this month.
Yes, Eunice wants you to work on it.
Okay. Well, if Eunice wants me to, then I will. Eunice, our friend Eunice, is also working on Death by Cross Stitch, and she has gotten a ton done in the past year because she always brings it to camp, and hers is beautiful. I love seeing it every single time she brings it out. I just want to stare at it. And it makes me want to work on mine every time I see hers.
I told her early on what my plan was, and she said, "Oh no, there's no way I could finish mine." Well, then I feel like she's been pulling it out pretty regularly, and she
Hmm.
has made a ton of progress. So,
Hmm. Yeah, it's really impressive.
I also have Pandemic by Long Dog,
Hmm.
and I started that this year as my leap year,
Hmm.
my leap year start. And so the goal with the leap year start is to start a piece and finish it by the next leap year.
Yeah.
And um, I realized that I did not want Pandemic to get finished before um, Life After Death.
Sure.
And Pandemic is more the size of your Death by Cross Stitch.
Hmm.
Life After Death is about a third less. So, because it's 55,000 stitches and yours is like
Oh,
77, 78.
yeah, let me look. I can find that out if I can locate it on here. Yeah, death is 81,000.
81. Okay. So, Pandemic is like 77, I believe.
Let me see. I have that right here. Yes, 77.
And I figured out that if I was going to finish it in 4 years, then by next February, I need to have almost 19,000 stitches done. That will not happen. It would be fairly easy because if I finish Life After Death by the end of October, then I'd be able to do 150-ish stitches a day to catch up.
Right.
So that's not going to happen because I'm not getting, unless we're doing a lot more Stitch With Us videos.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, because I know that sometimes I know that you're good for like a big challenge, but then once you're done with the big challenge, you kind of rebel and you're like, I'm not doing a big challenge for a while. I'm gonna work on these things. So I didn't know if you want to challenge yourself to another big thing, like go right back into that.
Well, and with it being so similar, probably not. I kind of
Mhm.
have a plan for next year, but I can talk about that in a little bit here.
Ooh.
Did you have more sampler questions?
No, that was my main one. I guess what's your favorite kind of sampler? What do you like to work on the best? I guess you already said you like Quakers the
I
best.
do like Quakers. I'm really drawn to those motifs. Um, they're just kind of fun. They're symmetrical most of the time, so
Mhm.
it's a challenge to get around and make
Right.
sure that it all matches up.
Sure.
And I don't know, I look at a piece and it just has to grab me. I love band samplers too.
Mm, yeah.
Um, one of the very first ones that I did was the 2017 Linen and Threads Mystery Sampler.
Hmm.
And it was a stitch along, and a part came out every month. And actually, I didn't start it until almost 2018 because I was waiting on fabric to come, and it took forever to come. But
Mm,
I wanted just the right fabric, and I knew what I wanted it to be.
right.
So I was willing to wait. And I still have that one going. So that's one that will come out this month. Um, and after looking at everything, I've decided to stop after the November band. I may put something along the bottom, but I didn't like the full December band from my piece. I
Hmm.
didn't like it to go with everything else and with the colors that I'm using to do mine. I didn't feel like it fit very well.
Right. Well, and that piece is beautiful. I like looking at that one every time that you work on it.
Oh, yeah, and it has all the flowers at the top. See, I think I
Hmm.
like flowers and animals in mine.
Oh, gotcha. See, I totally get the appeal of like a Quaker one or even a spot one, like you were saying, because it's all the little things that you get to finish. And
Mhm.
I think that's fun. You get a whole bunch of mini finishes as you work through stuff.
Uh, I did the Magic Garden sampler by Shakespeare's Peddler. You should go
Yes,
look
the
that one up,
infamous.
people. Yes, that is the one that started the snail obsession with the Black Needle people because we had them hunting for the snail of Shakespeare's Peddler. And
Hmm.
Teresa has all these beautiful, beautiful big samplers, big,
Hmm.
big samplers, and reproduction samplers, and original samplers. And the Magic Garden sampler is a very manageable little piece. I think framed mine is about like this. And
Hmm.
it is just a fun, quirky thing. And actually, it was her nod to Alice in Wonderland.
Hmm. Oh, that's fun.
So it's what the garden would have looked like. And it just had
Hmm.
some fun things. And it has this snail that kind of fades into the background because of all the other cool things around
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, I really like that one. It's one of those that I've thought about. Maybe I might like to do it, but then I'm like, "Ah, but maybe I just want to let that snail like live in infamy with you."
I know several people bought it after the retreat and a lot of people just stitched the snail off of it.
Hmm.
So that was kind of fun. But it's a fun, fun piece. And I also know Katie has a set of patterns and they're seasonal samplers and they are by Birds of a Feather and they are, I think that's right. I'll probably say the wrong one. They're on Birds of a Feather fabric. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But they're just quirky little things and Um, it was fun to work on one for her. She sent it in a round robin.
Oh,
I may have
fun.
actually done 2 of them. What do you like in a sampler?
What do I like? I like the little finishes. I think that that's fun because if we're
Yes.
calling ABC Dinosaurs a spot sampler, I like the I finished one dinosaur. That's
Mhm.
I feel accomplished. Or thinking about spot samplers, I'm thinking about a good day to celebrate, which was the camp piece for Camp Black Needle this year that I'm working on, and that has a whole bunch of just little motifs that will be fun to stitch and to have that little finish each time. I'm very I'm I whenever I stitch something I don't like to color complete so much. I really like to stitch object by object, motif by motif. Um and I don't know. I find it pretty rewarding to finish each little thing. So I'm
To
probably a
me,
person who
go ahead.
wants So I'm probably a person who wants just like little Quakers or little motifs or,
Mhm.
things like that. And that's the way I stitch frogworts, which I guess would be considered a band sampler because those are each all bands. I
Well,
find I
I would call them individually probably spot samplers
mhm.
because we don't do bands of things.
Except for on mine, it is a big band thing. I guess once it's all done, it'll be a band
That
sampler,
would
but
be
as the
but that would
parts.
be one whole band, but, like,
Mhm,
this is a band, this is a band,
mhm.
this is a band, whereas that's one big picture, so it's all the
Ah,
little pieces that make it a spot,
gotcha. I'm thinking
but
about like
the whole thing.
Well, you're stitching it as a spot sampler, and I guess I'm stitching it as a band sampler.
And your band takes a long time.
But no, so that's one of the things that I like to do whenever I'm stitching the model for that is I'll stitch motif by motif rather than color complete. So,
I
but
would
I think that's
say
just
on the camp piece, you're
mhm,
probably going to want to do, like, maybe one length of one color and then one length of the other color, of the lighter color,
mhm,
because there's so much, like, in each section. She did it by seasons,
mhm,
and each section has 2 colors, and one color is really more just an accent color.
mhm,
So it would either you keep 2 needles threaded and go that way,
mhm.
or you're gonna make yourself nuts with all of the switching out.
But see, I'm already making myself nuts because I'm stitching it over one, Laura.
Oh, yes. Ugh, then I'd say yes, thread 2 needles.
No, it's funny because I can tell whenever well, this isn't a spoiler because it was a couple months ago, but like the July celebrate all year, it was a bunch of hot dogs. And so probably if you were stitching it, you'd be like, I'm gonna stitch all the buns and then I'll stitch all the hot dogs and then I'll stitch the toppings. I stitched at the beginning, I stitched each hot dog individually because I thought that was fun, just to like get a finish on each little hot dog.
Uh-huh.
And then toward the end, whenever I needed to speed up and get it done, I color completed.
I think for me, it depends on whether or not I'm using Pattern Keeper,
Mm,
because when I'm using Pattern Keeper, it's very easy to, to do color completing.
mhm.
Um, if I'm looking at a pattern, I don't necessarily want to trust, um, that I'm going to catch everything that I need to.
Right. So here's a question for everyone. Well, one, we want to know what you're working on while you're stitching with us.
Mhm.
Two, are you the kind of person who would color complete a section, or would you do things individually by motif? What kind of stitcher are you?
And do you have a favorite kind of sampler?
Yes, let us know. Also,
Okay, I'm a
oh,
nutty person who loves the, alphabet over and over
Oh yeah.
with a little verse in there too, a quote
Hmm.
or verse.
Yeah, I like an alphabet too, but I can because you're really fast at words. You just like whip through words and letters.
Unless they are big chunky ones.
Hmm.
Ooh. I do like my band samplers and things. I have come to the realization, like in recent years, I would suppose, that I like samplers, but I like original samplers.
Mm. There you go.
I'm looking up at my wall because I have different things. Drawn thread, I feel like does a lot of things that are really appealing to me.
Mhm.
And maybe I would consider some of those samplers.
Yeah. I'm thinking about how, in a couple hundred years' time, what if somebody finds some of our cross stitch and they'll be like, oh, we should reproduce this.
So it would be a reproduction of a reproduction. Yeah.
Just keep going on. Keisha Guthrie, age 35.
I did find a really interesting article, if you're interested, by Lord Libidan. And
Hmm.
um, it just is all about, it's called That's Not a Cross Stitch Sampler, but there was all sorts of information in there about what made up different samplers, and um it was kind of interesting. I skimmed through it pretty quickly,
That's
but
awesome.
anyway,
I like
so
he's the one who did the the epic Pokemon um cross stitch patterns.
um we're talking a little about that. I don't like to, I will complete a challenge. I'm very driven. I will get it done and then I'm done.
Hmm.
So I've been thinking about all of my projects over there. Doing a whip parade is a dangerous thing for me
Hmm.
because then I'm in the I just want to work on everything.
Right. You rediscover all of your stuff.
Yes. So I'm thinking that I might do kind of a modified version of what I did a few years ago. And I would like to pull a handful of projects every month and
Hmm.
have one that's really close to a finish and
Hmm.
see if I can do that and then work on kind of put them in a hierarchy and see what I can get accomplished. And then, the next month put those away and pull out something else. Unless, of course, I'm close and I decide that I have to keep something out and finish it.
Right.
I've
Yeah,
been
you
enjoying the idea that I'm not on a tight schedule this year.
hmm yeah, but you really made like great progress last year. I mean, not that you haven't done great things this year, but like your big challenge this year is life after death. So maybe you just like an overarching challenge that then you can have wiggle room in.
What's funny is that I always have the goal to finish one project a month.
Hmm.
And if you were with us last week on the floss tube, I have finished a project now. Um,
Woohoo.
and I'll show it next week. But it does make it difficult to have a finish when you are doing something like when I'm doing the like my life after death. It's hard to
Mhm.
get something in and get it finished.
Right. Yeah, I went into this year with a plan, and I don't even know why I made a plan because 4 months into the year, I had a baby, and I knew that that was going to happen at the start of this year. So I'm not sure why I made a big plan.
It wasn't a surprise. Yeah.
No, no, I knew it was going on. Um, So I'll have to see. We both talked about maybe starting some of the things that we've gotten in black needle boxes, uh, because there are so many just great patterns that have come out of those boxes that I have in my stash that I would like to start. I can think of several off the top of my head that I'd like to start, but
Mm.
um, I this year I really wanted to dedicate a lot of time to my full coverage projects, um, and I haven't really done that. And so I'm thinking about maybe that for next year is spending a little bit more time on full coverage things.
I would like to get a couple more blocks done on our Hawk Run Hollow
Mhm.
pieces. And I won't say finish the whole thing. I would like to get a couple more blocks done.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be good. I'd like to pull that back out too.
I finished June this year. July is almost full coverage on mine.
Mm.
So, and that's a 92 by 92 block.
Yeah,
So, that's a lot of stitches when it's basically full
right.
coverage.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Although I've proven to myself I could get that done,
Mhm.
but it just would be the only thing I worked on.
Right. And see, I have plenty of just fun full coverage things that are in my whips because I've only done autumn of the Gilmore Girls pattern of the Stars Hollow. So, and I've started on summer so I could work on those. Um I'm hoping that by the end of January I have Flying Pink Piggy done. That's the current goal. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Um I have the Mario pattern that I haven't worked on for a long time. I have Gamer Nouveau, which I would like to work on, and then I have a another Haid Bonded by the Rain that I would like to work on. So I have lots of fun full coverage things that would be great to
Mhm.
work on. So we'll see. I've just been kind of thinking about that. If I want to just try to basically try to do what my plan was for this year next year.
Um, they were talking in chat yesterday about the bag that we sent out from um, the Black Needle Society that was from Live and Die LA. And it's a little tote bag that has an Ada square in the center that you can stitch on.
Hmm.
And I was thinking that what I might do, they were talking about, oh, what should you put on that? What would be the thing? Well, I was kind of thinking that I might do one of the snails on it.
Well, fun.
And I'm thinking that the moonrise snail would be really pretty
Ooh,
on that fabric.
that would be really pretty on that fabric. Hmm.
So now I want to, and see that would fit in with our, oh, we're going to stitch something from a black needle.
Hmm.
So I need to find that bag and put that in my pile of things to do, starts to have next year.
Yeah, that would be so I have my plan with the snails is to stitch them on perforated plastic and make like little pins out of them.
Oh,
But I haven't done that
fun.
yet. And then at camp, I decided that I was going to stitch all of the camp pieces over one and just have teeny tiny ones. So I'm excited for that.
Because Keisha's crazy like that.
Well, see, with the exception of this past one, I have stitched all of them before, but none of them live with me because they are the models. And I'd like to have them, but I'm like, how do I make this a little bit different? Over one, of course.
There you go. Um, so we may have to have a snail start month, right?
Ooh, there we go. I love the snails. They're so much fun. And they're
It's
only, I mean, they're only a little at over 1,000 stitches each of them, so they're
I
definitely
was
a manageable thing.
I was thinking that, I never get to stitch those because we already have the models.
Hmm.
But if I can think of a different way to use them, then I will stitch some of them.
Right.
The newsletter should be out by now, so everybody will know that one of our big announcements, because we're talking about snails, is snail mail. We are
Ooh,
going to offer a new subscription that is all the snails, all things snail.
all the
So
same.
that should be fun. They'll come out every other month. Um, we are going to offer them a couple of ways, and you'll have to read the newsletter to get exactly what's in Katie's head.
Hmm.
But it has a cute logo, and um, we're really excited. Keisha is especially excited because she loves to stitch those.
Yes, yes, I do.
And
Yeah.
it won't be a full-on box like our regular subscription box. It will
Mhm.
be it will be mainly the pattern and threads from I'm sure she tells threads from Color and Cotton, and then maybe some other little thing thrown in the box, but that will be about it. And it should be fun. It'll be something that will be a quicker project, something that you can do in the months in between the regular subscription box.
Yeah,
But like
that's
Keisha
super.
said, they're just over 1,000. What did you say? Just over a
They're
thousand?
usually just over 1,000 stitches. I'm trying to think what the biggest snail has been, but I mean, it's usually just over 1,000. They are, if you're a person who had the Celebrate All Year, who subscribed to that, um, they're smaller than that. So they take less time. There's your point of reference if you're
There you
into black
go.
needle stuff.
But I think that will be fun. And to see those come out every couple of months will be just a fun thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. I'm a fan.
We were talking about it a little yesterday, and everyone seemed pretty excited. Everybody had opinions about what the snails should be, also.
Oh, well, that's fun. I mean, if you don't black needle, most of the snails have been for the camp
Hmm.
pieces. So they usually are tied into some sort of theme. So I'm excited to see what Katie Landis designs just open-ended for snails. I think that'll be fun.
I keep looking at the wrong side of the pattern, because there are
Oh
two
no.
parts to this border.
Uh-huh.
And then
Oh
I think
no.
that doesn't look like what I'm stitching. So I haven't done anything crazy, but
That's good. Oh, I hate that whenever you just pick up the wrong thing.
I did start off by shredding a strand of the floss,
Oh,
and then figured out that I was trying to stitch the wrong part of the repeat anyway.
oh gosh.
I
That's
think
a
that's something I like about samplers is that a lot of times there will be a repeat so that you can just sit and stitch.
yeah. It is kind of nice to get to something where you don't have to look at the pattern all the time. That's good for chats and everything. That and stitching something that has endless fill in.
Oh, those are great for chat, aren't they? Or the
Mhm.
long straight border, the long
Yes.
repeating border.
Mm. Or just the long line.
Yes, I do feel
I
like you get on the chat and then you make a lot of progress on those.
mhm. Yeah, one of the things that I'm currently working on, I'm just doing a whole bunch of fill. I did the outline and I was like of something and I'm like, well, now I can just fill and that'll be easy. But it's like at the rate that I stitch a couple nights of fill and I'm like, I just want some time to do this.
You need to bribe yourself with a length somewhere else. If I finish this
Yep.
part of the fill, so many
Yep.
strands, then I will move to something
Right.
else.
Yep. And that's kind of what I've been doing.
There's another. See, we can give you guys a host of questions during these.
Okay.
Um, so do you bribe yourself when you stitch?
Right.
How do you bribe yourself?
Yes. See, I don't mind repetitive things so much, but sometimes whenever I just get just endless fill is what gets me.
I have decided we've talked about different tips for with the people that do frogwarts for the sampler. And one of the tips that we gave over and over and over this year was don't save the quote until last. Do it before retreat if you can, because you're not going to want it's an over one or it's a
Mhm.
back stitch. But either way, it's something that takes a lot of concentration and probably will slow you down a little bit. And so we just encouraged people to not be trying to do that during challenge stitching. And it
Right.
hit me, that's what I should start with.
Mhm.
So that may be my thing.
Ah, see, part of the bribery for me whenever I do that is Frogwarts has a big, long, like diamond border band on it in different colors each year. And there is no way that I want to stitch that all at one time because it would just bore me to tears if I try to do that whole thing all at one time. It looks great, and I love that it's part of the piece. I could not stitch it all at one time. So usually it's whatever fits in my hoop. Before I move the hoop over, I will stitch whatever part of the band lives in that part of my hoop. And then I get to move to the next fun thing. That's my bribery on that one.
Okay, here's where Keisha and I are really opposite. I love to stitch that border because I can get in a rhythm and I can do a whole bunch. So if
Mhm.
I'm feeling like I'm behind on the sampler, I will stitch
Mhm.
border.
Uh,
And if it were me, I would go all the way across. But I did it Keisha's way this year, and I did what
mhm.
was in my hoop and only stitched that far. And I was like, I don't want to stop on the border. But I did. And it was kind of I really did use it for, okay, I just need a win tonight. I need to get my stitches in. And so for the win, I'm doing the border.
Right.
So I like all the little pieces that are on that.
Mhm.
And you and I have the task of figuring out if everything is where it should be and if the colors work. And um, this year, we, this year or last year more so, I guess, we were using three or four greens because it had the maize on it. And
Mhm.
um, we found out pretty quickly that we were having an issue with the greens because the new ones were not enough different.
Mhm.
Like, there were two colors that were almost exactly the same. So that's something you and I find during
Right.
stitching.
Yeah, and we find things differently because you use one set of floss and I use one set of floss.
Mhm. Keisha's using DMC, so they are different regardless.
Mhm.
But yes, it's fun. That's part of the fun too. And um I really like stitching with Keisha because she starts in the top left and I start in the bottom right. And Katie
Mhm.
loves it because both halves of the sampler have been proofed by the time we hit the middle.
Yeah.
And
And
we
that's
kind
always
of
kind of fun whenever we reach the middle together and then we could be like, this is what it'll look like when it's done.
yes. And I feel like you're very numbers driven, so you will always have the numbers there for us, and we know how many stitches we have to do in a day. And Keisha even breaks it down by motif.
Mhm.
I don't ever
Because as
follow that. I just stitch by
yeah,
the seat of my pants, and I I get the correct number of stitches done in a day.
yeah, because as we've discussed, I'm very motivated by finishing the little things. So I know that if we have, 1,000 stitches to do, and there are 500 stitches in each of these motifs, well, I need to finish both of those motifs before I'm done. You know, not that we do 1,000 stitches in a day. I wouldn't be able to keep up with that pace, except for on the weekends, maybe.
We've had a pretty good Katie got done early last year, and so we were able to work on it earlier, and we set really good goals, and then I pushed Keisha because I wanted to be done sooner.
And that's okay. It worked out. The reason why she had to have it done so early is because I was like, listen, I'm going to have a baby usually in the time that I'm usually stitching this. So if you would like me to model stitch this year, we're going to need it early.
But also, I wanted to be done before we had our Stars Hollow retreat. I
Mhm.
did not do that because I had gotten wonky and started in the wrong place with my over one verse and had to quote, and I had to pull the whole thing out and redo it. But I was able to pull it out in stages and put it back in as I went
Mhm.
along.
Yeah.
So it was okay. And I did finish by the end of retreat. I just didn't get to work on the piece I had intended to work on during retreat. I didn't get to do much of it. But then that gave me a different challenge because then I wanted it finished because Keisha
Right.
finished hers.
We
It was
finished on the same
easy
day. And
peasy.
yes, yes, I did finish easy peasy. We finished Frogwarts on the same day, but then you frogged afterwards
Yes,
because we always finish on the same day.
yes. And we had to go get beads, but we counted it as a finish because
Mhm.
I only had to put on less than 10 beads.
Right.
We had specialty stitches in it this year. That was fun.
Yeah. I thought that was super fun. They were well, it was Smyrna's, right, that we ended up doing for the
We did some modified eyelets.
ah
We always do Smyrna's on the bottom by the quote.
mm,
Mm, no, we do
no,
eyelets
those are
on there.
eyelets.
Smyrna's are an X with a cross on top.
Yeah. We did like a modified Smyrna's for the fireworks this year, right?
Kind of.
Okay. We did fun stitches for
We did
the
whatever Katie came up with when she Googled.
Katie drew it out for us, and then I stitched them and took a close-up picture of what I did. I was like, is this good? And then we had French knots, where I did some of the best French knots of my life. So,
Except I didn't do French knots because one of the things that was different between the two is that we had me put beads on mine.
mhm, which is fun.
So, what do you think the differences are between doing something like abralowny and doing something like frogworts? Because those are two very different kinds of samplers. And versus, I mean, like our long dogs.
Mhm. So Aberlowney, I don't know that it's a weird comparison because of all of the strange things that are in Abra, like the stitching on the wrong thread, doing what the pattern lovingly refers to as irregular eyelets, and trying to figure that out. I'm now to the point, and this is probably why I haven't worked on it for a while, where I have to do freeform stitching.
Yes, that's what I was gonna ask you.
So I've got to figure out that, uh,
Your freeform
which I'm not,
stitching almost makes me think of embroidery.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. You have an embroidery background, so it might be like make more sense to your brain than it does to my brain because my brain is like, put the little X's in the little spots.
That's why I don't like stamped cross stitch because the X's don't line up when they do X's.
Hmm.
It makes me insane, which is funny
Yes.
because I prefer linen over everything. And
Hmm.
linen has all of the slubs. And I'm looking at this beautiful piece of linen, and it is
Hmm.
Slub City. So I have
Yeah,
thick and thin threads.
right. But there's still a little hole for each thing to go into. So, so yeah, so I find that to be a little bit more of a challenge. Uh, but it's good. I like to be challenged sometimes. So I really enjoy that piece, but it's not the piece that I just want to sit and relax with. It's my let's sit and like really think piece. Whereas um like the Frogworst one, uh it's a lot more like blocks of color and just kind of more relaxing to stitch and you don't have to think about it as much. Except for when we're model stitching, then we do have to think about it.
I
But
know. And then I'm thinking the whole time, okay, I have to get my stitches in because Keisha's getting her stitches in and I have to keep up.
well, see, the thing about the Frogworts model and like what I'm working on right now is it's on 36 count with one strand, and I feel free. Like that's my favorite
Mm.
combination of things. And it's DMC, so I can just like kind of go back and forth and I don't have to worry about color changes. So I can just kind of fly through it. That's like best case scenario for me. So it really is the Frogworts one is a pretty relaxing stitch for me. And then the long dog I think is fun. It's also 36 count with one strand of DMC because like I said that's my favorite. That one's fun because I'm kind of deciding where to put extra pops of color in it.
Hmm.
So they're all uh they're all fun for their own reasons.
And do you feel how different they are? Because
Oh,
they're
like
type wise, do you
oh,
feel how
type
different they
wise.
are?
Yeah, because I approach them differently. I feel like I work on Abra more in bands. It's not really a band sampler, but there are like specific sections of things. So I
Hmm.
work on it more in bands. And
It's like a
then,
band of spots almost.
yeah, yeah, kind of so.
There are some
Um,
bands, and then there are like bands with spots.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so I feel so I just work that one differently. And then, of course, Frogworts, as we've kind of said, I work it spot by spot. And then Death by Cross Stitch, I work section by section because there's definitely like its own little sections, but that's more just whatever fits in my hoop. So I definitely work on them all differently. How about you? Do you feel different approaches whenever you work on different sorts of things, or do you work on it kind of similarly no matter what you're working on?
Well, I have been fighting a little with like when I'm tired now, my eyesight is really like, no, we're not doing that. So
Hmm.
working on Life After Death has been really interesting because I have nights where I think I'm not really gonna see this. And then I put myself in the position of catching up and currently I'm stitching 300 stitches a day on it. It's on
Hmm.
40 count antique hydrangea from R&R, which is beautiful fabric.
Hmm.
And it's a nice light fabric. I can see the color in the holes easily. Um, but it is 40 count, and I'm to a point where I'm like, this is not my sweet spot anymore. So
Right.
that's another reason I wanted to get it finished. Stitching
Hmm.
it with Silks for You, and mine is an overdyed silk, and it goes from a blue purple through like the palest white purple into a red purple.
Mm.
And so I don't really plan a whole lot with that other than if I end with the blue purple, then I start the next length, right in that same spot with the blue purple so
Ah,
that it's not a jarring change.
right.
So I do have to think a little that way. Um, I've already put the year on it. I'm going to tell you guys that. So it has to get finished this year.
Uh-oh.
Um, for for my modern or for my linen and threads, which is now Fox and Rabbit. For that one that Brendan designed, um, he put a pattern out there and he said, this is the color we used.
Hmm.
Well, I saw how some people started and decided to make mine have a whole slew of colors. And I had been part of a thread club. And so I had a whole bunch of flosses. And when I started, I just pulled those flosses out and that's what I'm using. So I chose it has the top band has flowers and I chose the flower colors in order, the heads of the flowers. I
Hmm.
chose one green that would be the border all the way around and in between the bands, and I have a second green that is all of the leaves.
Ah,
Okay, so that was a long-winded thing to tell you my setup. So
right.
then I'm using mostly the colors that the flower heads are with
Hmm.
accents of green, but sometimes I think, oh, we need like a break in there. So I have a few extra colors that I throw in. There's a
Hmm.
lot more thinking and planning. I mean, you can hear the way I'm talking about it. There's a lot more thinking and planning with it just to get everything going.
Right.
So it's very interesting to work on it and I really like it.
Hmm.
It's just I have to think a lot more and I haven't finished it because of that.
Yeah.
So also a band, that one is every band is over 100 stitches wide.
Oh, wow.
And that's if you only have, like one row. But the
Hmm.
bands are usually pretty wide.
Right.
And if they're thin bands, so you would think a thin band would be better. Well, that's almost solid.
Mm, yeah.
So there's a lot in every band.
Right. A lot of stitches, a lot of planning.
Yes. And I feel like that's just a lot of different things. And um I do have, there are like picture samplers. So I was thinking I have one that Blackbird Designs put out when they were doing their Loose Feathers Club, and they put a whole chart picture every month. And they had two ways that you could do it. You could either stitch each one on a different piece of fabric, and at the end, you needed to sew those together so that the border meets up so that it's one cohesive piece. Or
Hmm.
if you're like me, you just get one piece of fabric.
Hmm.
But I haven't finished that one. That's like 2007. That one started, and it's 5 or 6 pictures that'll make one long band, but it's all individual charts all the way
Oh,
across.
that's cool.
So I would call that more like a picture sampler. And I probably used my own terminology. I'm just going to tell you that.
It's okay. What I'm finding out is that there are absolutely no rules to this, and you can make whatever you want to a sampler.
Yeah, as long as you explain it to yourself, you should be good to go.
Perfect. Well, are you getting to a place where you feel like you'll be good to stop?
Mine is a repeating band, and I am pretty close to the end of a length. So,
All right.
yes. Are you about there?
Yeah, I'm at a good stopping point. So I can go
We
ahead and show you mine.
we probably need to have one more stitch with us this month, because we have a sampler to start together.
Yes, that's true. So here in a couple weeks, we'll probably start the Orange Tree Sampler by Carriage House Samplings, which is just a cute cat and an orange tree that has alphabets on it. That's fun.
Yes, we love that.
Yeah, so I'll show you where I got to on mine. So I did this whole white line down the stomach here, and then I did the orange here, and then the orange in the queue. So I just have to do finish up the queue and then put in the black of the dinosaur's eye and do a little bit of back stitching, and I'll be finished with the letter Q. I did
Awesome.
between us talking beforehand and what I did um, on film here, I did 109 stitches. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
My brain is not working with all of this today. That's what I'm going to tell you.
Oh,
So I'll
that's
show
okay.
you. It wants me to really concentrate on this band. I don't know how many stitches I did, but I just added another one.
Oh, nice.
I have one, two, three, four, five, six full ones. I have one more full one, and then another partial one that'll be like this.
Hmm.
Come on, stand up there. And it will be at the end of this, and that will reach one side. And then I'll still have, there's another, you see, there's another part of the border that goes across.
Oh,
But
fun.
I like this because this will set my border and it'll be easy to go on from there.
Yeah, definitely.
I probably
So,
started with what I feel like is the most work heavy of the piece.
mhm.
I will like this.
Yeah. Yeah, that will be fun. And see, I started at the top with the alphabet. So,
Okay. I will love that alphabet too. That will go fast.
mhm.
So, and this one, okay. I like reindeer in my sample, and those are
Yes,
fabulous.
you love reindeer and florals, so this one's perfect for you.
Yes. So I like reindeer and rabbits and cats and
Mhm,
stars and hearts.
mhm. Laura loves everything.
That's not a big, I mean, I know what I like in mine. So,
Mhm. Oh, for sure. And you like specific types of things too.
yes.
Like you love
Yes.
a rabbit, but you don't love a cartoon rabbit.
No. Yeah. No. I am not the Keisha likes the things that make you laugh, and I like my rabbits to look real.
Yeah.
Long Dog does fabulous leaping rabbits and sitting
Mhm,
rabbits and
mhm.
yes.
Lara likes it if the rabbits are all one color of floss.
Although in my
Oh,
life after death, because of that variegated, they come out really
mhm.
interesting colors.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. All right. Well, we have some questions for you about sampler. So let us know what you think. Also, make sure you let us know what you are stitching on because we want to know that.
yes, it's always
But
fun to answer those.
yeah. Well, do you think we've rambled enough today?
Oh, probably more than enough. And they're thinking, let's get on with our day. So we can
Yes,
have lots of shenanigans.
for sure. So I guess all that's left to say is
Bye.
have a good week.